ти завжди досягаєш свого.
Ти щодня стаєшся безпечним регіоном. Ти новини отримаєш в будь-який час. Маєш свіжі продукти і снідаєш смачно. Виглядаєш чарівно. Ти знаєш, що світ – це робота усіх, хто працює з любов'ю. Професійно-технічна освіта. Все працює завдяки нам. Навчайся тому, що любиш.
Доброго дня, шановні колеги.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Welcome at the final conference of the EU4Skills Programme. I think you must be happy to be here together in this live format and be able to communicate. Just to remind you, for those who need it, you have headsets on your tables.
Number 2 for English translation.
Let's use it.
Дякую. Так.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm Natalia Barsenkova. I will be moderating this event today. And we are also having an online stream on YouTube. I'm sure we have here practically everyone professionally engaged in vet development and efforts to have it developed further to comply with needs of the labor market and the needs of the country. We are very glad to see you here today. We also have representatives of line ministries and institutions working on vet reform implementation, representatives of donor institutions who provided their facilities expertise. We have also representatives of education departments and training centers from the majority of oblasts of Ukraine. So a big round of applause for everyone. And I'm not a chance visitor here, by the way, as well. I'm the managing partner of the One Health Agency and very proud to tell you that our team was involved in the implementation of 2 projects in terms of promoting of VIT. First concerned promotion of VET among girls, also aimed at fighting gender stereotyped perception of VET. And the second concerned training course on vocational education and training, and I see some people who remember it. And this is the course available on our online VET platform. Please join. It really works well to promote VET. Again, welcome at our event today. I do hope we will be able to recollect all the success stories. I think that in spite of everything happening now in the country, we are still going strong, we are resilient, and VET now has very important prospects given the need to recover and restore the country. We are very grateful to partners that we've been working with throughout the time of EU4Skills implementation. You have the agenda of this event in your deliverable, by the way, and you can check the timings of our speeches and interventions. And just a quick reminder, safety rules because of the wartime we are living in case an air raid alert starts, hotel staff will lead us to the shelter and we will reconvene here after the alert ends. I do hope that we won't have that nuisance today, but just to remind you that we will have to obey the rules. Regarding the interpretation, we are going to have speakers with different languages. Those in need of interpretation, you can have headsets to hear the event in the language of your preference. For English, please select channel 1. For Ukrainian, channel 2. We also have online participants with us, and big thanks to them for having joined. Another technical comment, probably the last one, after each session. You know that we are going to have public panel discussions to discuss important matters of vet development, human resource potential development, and you will have a chance to put questions to the speakers. I suggest you use your notebooks and pens. If you have any fleeting question amidst one's presentation, just don't forget to jot it down in your notebook, and then you will have a chance to. We will have Artyom going between tables and collecting your written questions, and we will do our best to transfer them to speakers to respond. That is the plan for today, and I do hope it will be a fruitful day for us, an inspiring one, and it will make for a nice chance of interaction and networking for everyone. So again, welcome at this final conference of EU4Skills Programme. A couple of words regarding the agenda, the program, sorry. This is a program to support the reform of vocational education and training in Ukraine. It was supported by the EU and Germany, Finland, Poland and Estonia, EU member states, and we are deeply thankful to them for this. Thanks to you, it was successfully actually implemented. We are at the final stage of it. So the implementers are GSZ, KfW organizations from the co-financing countries. Finnish National Education and DUFI, Polish Solidarity Fund, GSZ and Harno from Estonia. The key objective is to support the development of vocational education and training. It all started back in 2019 with the key objective to adapt education, training and curricula to the current needs. I think it was not by chance that it was exactly in 2019 when this process started. I think now we have a much clearer understanding of how important the VET is and how important the processes unfolding there are for the country. The program had 7 pilot oblasts: Vinnytsia, Poltava, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, Rivne and Chernivtsi. With the advent of the war, the program quickly revised its priorities to help vet institutions retain their teaching opportunity in these challenging conditions. And really it was very important for the program to remain flexible, and they did it just like this. We hope that you've been able to feel the positives of program and its implementation, its effects for students, for vet schools, for teaching staff. I'm sure that we are going to see even more afterwards, and we are going to hear more about that. Yes, the program would not be possible without our partners, and I am pleased to invite to this scene partners of EU4Skills Programme, rather the representatives. I will be calling your names and invite you to this podium to have a less formal presentation. Mr. Frederick Kuhne, Head of Cooperation EU Delegation to Ukraine. Lisbeth Müller-Hofstede, Education Counselor from the German Embassy. Dmytro Zavgorodny, Deputy Minister of Education and Sciences of Ukraine. Mr. Daniel Boucher, GIZ Ukraine Country Director, Roman Poklonsky, Director of the Department of Employment at the Ministry of Economy, and Olga Koval, Subhead of Verkhovna Rada Committee on Education and Innovation. Wunderbar. We have a very nice and representative and strong panel of speakers and partners here. You have your mics, dear participants. So you can either mics from the floor or come closer to the podium to put the question. And I think it will be nice for the panelists to keep sitting. I'd like to give the floor now to Frederick Kuhne, Head of Cooperation EU Delegation to Ukraine.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. I'm not going to use some kind of speaking points. If I understand the mathematics, I have been allotted generously 2.5 minutes, just like the other people here. So, Pavlo, Irina, Shumik, yes, Vera, where are the other, let's say, old-timers who were there 4.5 years ago, 3 ministers ago, who are still there? Remember the discussions we had? We thought that we just have to sort everything out between GIZ, KfW. We just have to find the right pilot schools, and then everything's going to go smooth. How naive could we be, right? A lot has happened. Then we thought, oh, COVID, horrible. COVID, sorry, was nothing, right? The war came. We're still there. Things are going on. Ukraine has shown that it can continue its reforms. Vet schools are there, are being reformed. Everything very much on track. I'm not going to talk about the results that have been achieved. You know it much better than me. I'm not going to talk about how much money the European Union is giving and how much the EU supports Ukraine. You hear it every day on the news. What I want to do is I want to thank the people who've been involved here. First of all, of course, I want to thank the other donors who were involved. So Germany, Estonia, Finland, Poland. Hope I didn't miss anybody. I would also like to thank very much all the implementers, because many partners have been involved. So it's not only GIZ and EduFi and so on, but many other people have been involved. And it's been a very, very hard task. Implementing reforms in peace times is extremely difficult. It's extremely hard. Nobody wants to do it. Doing it during war times is even much more of an achievement. So thanks a lot for doing all of that. And finally, I also want to thank the colleagues from the ministry, because you've shown a lot of engagement during these hard times. And I'm not only talking about here the people in the ministry itself, but also the people working indirectly for the ministry, the teachers. Because what makes a good teacher? It's not the one who is the quickest, it's not the one who has the best methodologies. Yes, methodology is important. A good teacher is somebody who's really there and who's carrying out his mission in life. Somebody who really believes that it is his role for educating the next generation. And I think that in the past couple of years, we've seen some bad examples, people who've shown that they were only there because they could make some money or something like that. But there's been many other very brilliant cases of people who, notwithstanding the pandemic, notwithstanding the war, have been there to prepare this younger generation to get ready for their economic interaction in life. And especially if we're looking now also with the war, that for the reconstruction, yeah, sure, you're going to need lawyers, you'll need economists, but without plumbers, without carpenters and so on, you're not going to be able to deal with your reconstruction. So I would really like to thank and show my deepest respect to all these teachers who have been really carrying out their mission in life of educating the next stage of the next generation of young people here. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick. We hope that everything will be okay and with your support. Thank you so much. Так, продовжуємо.
Yes, thank you so much, and we continue. I'd like to give the floor now to Ms. Lisbeth Müller-Hofstede, Educational Counselor.
Of course, it's quite hard now to speak after Frederick because I'm following a more traditional approach. I do have speaking points, but don't you worry, they're not very long. On behalf of the German Embassy, on behalf of Germany, I would like to thank everybody. I can echo what Frederick said. I want to thank all the donor partners, all the Ukrainian government partners, but first of all, also all the implementers and all the people on the ground in the schools who actually made things happen, who actually created success in this program. I think without those people, it's just impossible. You can give much money, you can employ many people, but you do really need people on the ground that create in change and that believe in change and believe in reform. So thank you for that. Germany's engagement in VET dates back to 2017. Back then already we focused on the vocational education of IDPs from the Donbas area. Then we teamed up with the EU, we teamed up with EU member states to be part of EU4Skills. I'm really happy about that, and I'm really happy that we could be part of this great initiative. We have invested around 70 million euro for VET since then. This is not about money, but is just about the commitment we have for this important sector in Ukraine, because we believe it is really a crucial sector for the development of the Ukrainian economy and for the development of Ukrainian young people. I've been in Ukraine since 2020. Unfortunately, this is my last week in Ukraine, so this program is coming to an end. My time here is coming to an end. I'm quite sad about it. But looking into the future, I actually will continue to work on Ukraine, and I will continue to work on Ukrainian skill development programs as well. Then on the other side from Germany, so we will remain committed. And let me also tell you that Germany has already financed and set up a new program on skill development. It's called Skills for Recovery. In this program, again, unfortunately, we are going to focus on the needs of IDPs, on the needs of vulnerable people affected by the war, and on ways how to integrate those people also in the labor market. And today I would like to invite all our partners. I would like to invite the EU and all the EU member states to be part of this initiative. I'm very much looking forward to this new chapter of our cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your continuous support. Forward to support Ukraine. Thank you so much. Тепер переходимо до вітального слова.
You can just speak. I'm pleased to invite Mr. Dmytro Zavhorodny, Deputy Minister, Minister of Education and Science. Good morning. Happy to welcome you. For me, it's quite interesting to be a novice here, observing the final event of the project, which had been lasting for more than 3 years. I had visited many places in Ukraine where people kept telling me about this project and emphasized their plans, what they plan to do to continue this project. And I felt that people are very grateful for the outputs of the project, for its deliverables, and they are happy with them. And that's why I would like to thank to all those who contributed to the implementation of the project. First of all, to Irina, because I know how many efforts she contributed to the project. Being in the ministry, working in the ministry, I had a chance to see how much people worked for the project. For me, it is quite important what positive lessons and lessons in general can we take out from the implementation of this program. First of all, we had realized that introduction of the VT training centers and procurement of good equipment for them. This is the right thing to do, and also hiring qualified personnel for these training centers. Again, this is very important. This is the positive lesson which has to be learned. Then, having tried to introduce this dual education and individual education, we understood what are the obstacles in Ukraine and what has to be done to overcome these obstacles. And in general, we can assess this overall project as a very successful project. Sometimes in Ukraine we deal with much less successful projects, and in these cases people try to finish the project as soon as possible and almost forget about it, while this project proved to be successful because people want to continue what was begun in course of the project. And at the same time, we realize that there is too much work to do ahead, and that's why we will need your support, your contribution in future. And I encourage you to continue to work on the project deliverables and to scale up what you have learned and what you have introduced due to the project. And I would like to capitalize on what my colleague just mentioned. Of course, the events of the last several years, first the pandemic, then outbreak of the full-scale war, the resilience of people impressed me very much. At the same time, I clearly understand that we should not make excuses for ourselves because of the pandemic, because of the war, and explain we cannot do this, we cannot do that because of these excuses. But we understand that there are emergencies like IDPs, like people who need help and assistance. But I do not think that these emergency cases should prevent us from the willingness to improve the education system in general, the overall educational system, because contribution of all available resources into rescue measures would not produce sustainable long-term result, because if we will do firefighting just now, so to say, then these people will be or maybe more interested to migrate from Ukraine looking for better conditions if we fail to provide sustainable conditions for long-term work and education. Thank you. I would like to invite to the microphone Mr. Daniel Boucher, GIZ Ukraine Country Director.
Thanks. Good morning, Vitayu, and also thanks to the other speakers here actually on the panel who, as sort of the row continues, you realize lots of the things that you were planning to say have already been mentioned. But just let me take the opportunity to amplify what I heard on behalf of GIZ as an implementer of the program. So I think what you just said in terms of the long-term commitment towards reform and sort of the strategic objective of the program, while at the same time being flexible enough, I think that's one of the success factors and key factors of also this program in terms of delivering on the results, on a sort of long-term perspective, but also on more short-term and mid-term impacts, which I find really impressive. And when I came on board and we're also learning about the program, I think that is something that is also showing sort of the commitment of the team that made this happen. And so I just would also like to echo a big thank you to the round of implementers actually making this possible together with the partners. So flexibility, I think, is key and will remain to be key while not losing sight of the long-term strategic goal of such a program and in the sector. Second, I think key is also having committed partners and having also strong partners who are actually also able to weather the resilience that is needed, that you mentioned, which I think is also not a natural gift, but it comes with a set of competences that partners bring to the board and which I can also see here and which I'm also deeply grateful for. And then I would say, last but not least, and it was mentioned by Lisbeth also, moving forward is also, of course, something which is nice at a closing event. And first and foremost, I would like to applaud and congratulate everyone to actually make such an event happen. It's always a bit weird and special to be at a closing ceremony and look back if you don't have the opportunity to look forward. And while I really cherish such moments as this one here, and these have become a bit rare during COVID times and also during war times, let's be honest. So I think it's needed to have such in-person meetings and gatherings and also celebrate successes. It's even more so, I would say, encouraging to look forward. And what Lisbeth has been mentioning on behalf of the German government with regard to skills for recovery, I think is also directly delivering on, I would say, an objective that is, I think, also very dear to the work of GIZ as such. I just was at the London conference last week, where probably many of you have also been or have been following sort of the headlines. And while you see all the commitment politically at high level with regard to recovery and reconstruction, you wonder, so who's going to do that? And Frederick, you just mentioned that the heroes in hard hats, the electricians, the plumbers, the construction workers, they are also needed. So I'm really grateful that Skills for Recovery will be looking into that, and I'm happy that we as GIZ will be able to contribute to that. Many thanks, looking forward to the event. Thank you.
Thank you. А зараз до вітального слова.
And now I'm happy to give the microphone to Mr. Roman Poklansky from the Department of Professional Education in the ministry. Thank you. Together with Dmitro, I joined the project at rather late stage when it was almost approaching to its final. And realizing the importance of the project, I would like to thank you to Germany, Finland, Estonia, and Poland for this project implementation. And I would like to use this opportunity to promote the reform of labor and labor market, which the Ministry of Economy is planning these days. I am not a new person in the Ministry of Economy. I used to work before in the Department of Environment and Natural Resources within the same ministry. And now I work for the Department of Labor. And I would like to remind you that we have the Employment Department, and via that department we contributed to this project. Recently, we increased the number of specialists who should be trained and retrained on the account of national budget funding twice, and specifically we're thinking about those skills and professions which will be needed for reconstruction of Ukraine after the war. Yesterday, we had launched a new profession which will be funded, training to which will be funded from the state budget. These are SAPers. Of course, it is maybe sad to confess that we had to launch such a profession, but nevertheless, this was a requirement of our times. And during the last several years, people have been thinking rather thoroughly how to earn more money in intellectual professions or in vocational professions. And I believe that we should do everything possible to allow professionals in working professions to earn decent money. And now I'm pleased to give the floor to Ms. Olga Kaval from the Parliament of Ukraine, from the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm the final speaker at the final event. I'm very pleased to do this. Nevertheless, I'm confused. What do I feel, actually? A sort of nostalgic feeling. We had done much to develop vocational training and education and to develop human capital in general. At the same time, I'm very grateful to all those who were involved into the project implementation, and I'm sure that this is just a beginning of huge work which we have ahead of us. My short welcoming speech should remain short because during the whole day in front of us we will discuss the project results, but we worked systemically. We tried to campaign and promote vocational training and its reform with the enthusiasm. And from the very beginning of the full-scale war, we felt assistance and especially for IDPs. For me, as a legislator, amendments to legislation are the main concern. Usually, introducing amendments to legislation is not easy, and EU4Skills had become a very good partner in doing that. I'm speaking about the draft law on vocational training, and now I am sure that this very important law will eventually finalized. I would like to thank all those who contributed to the project implementation, to our foreign partners, to the European Union and European countries, to Germany, Finland, Poland and Estonia. You are our true partners. I would like to thank to Ms. Shumek, who are the driver of this process. And eventually, I would like to emphasize that we will prevail very soon, and we should be ready for the victory. We should be prepared by the moment when we gain it to start reconstruction of the country. Thank you. Thank you to our partners. I would like to say that we are stronger together and we are unconquerable together. We should be ready to reconstruct Ukraine immediately after the victory. You have inspired us. Thank you so much. You equipped us with assurance that this is the beginning of a very great process. We value our partners very much because we know that we can do anything only together as a team. Now let us go deeper into the project results, into the deliverables of the project, to discuss how we have gained those results and recollect our successes. I'm happy to invite Mr. Alexei Oleksiuk, who will describe the project implementation. Thank you.
Good morning, dear guests, colleagues, friends, experts. Let me invite you to a brief journey today. The journey is titled EU4Skills and VET reforms. I'll put it like this. Throughout this trip, this journey, we've been able to collect lots of treasures that we'd like to share with you today. It's about knowledge and experience and our partner relations. And we would like today to allow ourselves recommending a continuation of this journey. This slide here shows general information about EU4Skills project, the one that did change lives of many in Ukraine. We do hope that it will continue because education is about investing in the future of a new Ukraine. We were together throughout the time of systemic reforms. We were together during the pandemic, during the COVID time, in the most critical moments of Russia's full-scale aggression in the past year and now. And like our servicemen who are defending the independence of our country on the front line, we are fighting for the future of every Ukrainian national, or for the future of our country. Let us briefly revisit the path of the program to see the way in which we went to this point in time today, from the very start to the completion. First of all, the EU4Skills project has had three pillars, three key components. The first concerned support of VET schools, modernizing the content of education, establishing a modern learning environment. The second component concerned promotion of professional choice and career choice of Ukrainians, improved access to VET. And the third component concerned support of systemic reforms. And we can recollect a lot of milestones related to the recognition of Ukrainian education achievements in Europe, development of sectoral education on VET, development of occupational standards, modernization of curricula, and so on. I think many more stories, you can hear them from our partners who are ready and eager to share them. They can. I think Irina Shumik is probably the one to tell you the most about the initiatives themselves and their implementation. I'm very much sure that Yuri Balanyuk from the National Qualifications Agency is also well able to recall lots of interesting moments related to self-certification, report preparation, occupational standard development. I'd like to thank the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Science, and we can recall our collaboration related to the development of new vet-related legislation. But still, I think the greatest treasure is still lying ahead. You know, any partnership is about primarily people, and we are deeply thankful to all the partners who have contributed, who are present today, whether offline or online, and we will gladly communicate and network with you, every one of you. We will be glad to hear any more recommendations during the panel discussions today. And, you know, the EU4Skills Programme kick-started also in summertime. And it all started in an IT hub in Podil. The then Minister Hanna Novosad was present, and there was discussion about the upcoming tasks of it. No one had a clear understanding of how things would develop. There was an understanding that it would contribute to the education development and some systemic reforms. But then the pandemic came. It changed a lot, the whole system of education, not just that. Digitalization became prominent. It became necessary to retrain teachers and masters of education. And by the way, we were able to retrain 1,700 of them. You remember the Lviv conference? In late pandemic time, it was when we were able to gather roughly 150 of you. We had this very lively communication that inspired us to move further. Then the life continued, and the program developed further until the war that started last February. It changed Ukraine and the Ukrainians. Security-related considerations became top priority. There were problems related to brownouts and blackouts, and together with our partners, we were able to design an emergency aid package within the scope of which we were able to assist about 300 vet schools in Ukraine. While we initially focused on 7 pilot regions, with war coming into the country, we spread onto practically the whole of the country. And roughly in October 2022, we had a mishap when a missile hit the ministerial building, and we gladly offered opportunity for the ministerial team to relocate to our office. We were able to continue our cooperation thanks to that. So roughly this is the roadmap of the program. The past milestones. We had to refine and revise our programmatic objectives, and really the program was uniquely flexible. That provided us again with unique experience of such projects implementation in challenging conditions. One of unique features of our EU4Skills program has been its focus on people themselves. Students, teachers, staff members, we always prioritized changes, bringing in changes in lives of real people. We've always stood for European values, assisting vulnerable groups, helping educators to come abreast with new developments, and helping students. Yeah, the life goes on. And let me share with you a couple of personal stories. As you can see from the slides, this is the story from the wartime period. This is the time when Natalia Rybak, a teacher from a vet school in Lviv, she tried to adapt to new challenges, and in spite of the fact that the vet school was closed itself, but she was very much engaged in the design of online courses and helped launching them. That way we facilitated many educators to regain their access to their students, to maintain their stability and resilience of education. We fostered cooperation with employers and were able to help many young people. Check Nadia Chukhlib. She was able to gain skills of shop assistant, and in spite of the crisis situation, she was so successful that she landed several job offers after completion. We had a pilot on that, and we were able to help a couple of hundreds of young people to find their first employment. Another case, this is the story of an IDP from Liman, Donetsk Oblast, Volodymyr Shkaliy. Yes, he was an IDP. He had to relocate to a western region, finding temporary shelter in one of vet institutions there. Now he's employed there, and he continues working there. He said that way he kind of repays his debt to the hosting community there. So, this is to say that our program has always been focused on specific individual people and on possibilities of introducing life-changing opportunities for them. Now, some general facts about key achievements of the program worth mentioning. About 300 vet schools received assistance through the program. I think there is not a vet staff member who has never heard or never participated of our program. I think that our speakers also mentioned that. And I'd like to mention one of probably most successful cases initiated by the program. It concerned the promotion of vet as a whole, improving its image across regions in Ukraine. We wanted the vet system to, generate certain opportunities for young people that would be visible and would be enviably useful. And I think that at least half of Ukraine residents have been able to hear updated news about vet opportunities. It became possible through cooperation with partners. We created lots of online content. We created new online tools, online platform primarily, which is called Vet Education and Training. Definitely it will require more information and updates, but it already works to boost popularity and image of vocational education and training. We have been supporting systemic reforms in vocational education and training in spite of pandemic, in spite of the war. We did our best to improve occupational and educational standards. We worked on a joint report to recognize the NQF and to compare it versus the EQF together with our partners. We also worked on other components of this overarching reform. Nearly forgot one moment, which is about the sheer scale and outreach of the program. You can see the locations across Ukraine that we use to have our events. We have 7 regions marked on the map. We overcame this limitation to work in all regional centers. and we were able to carry out more than 700 of them. We looked into gender balance for that, and we can say that more than 55,000 participants attended them. It's really a pity that not every our partner or colleague is able to join this event in Kyiv, but some of them are online and they're following this event. I'd like to take this opportunity and thank all our colleagues, primarily our local teams, who have backstopped our activities. We cooperated with many teachers, experts, business, and company representatives. Thank you. You brought bits of your experience, bits of your very soul. You contributed to the success of our program, and you are the biggest treasure of that. Special thanks go to our implementing partners. One cannot overestimate the contribution done by our Finnish colleagues who modernized our training courses, particularly colleagues from EDUFI. We'd like to thank the Polish Solidarity Fund, the Education Department at Harno. Dear colleagues, together by joint efforts, we've contributed to the unleashing of potential of the future Ukrainian. And I'd still like to mention the regions, the oblast now, military, civil administrations. They have been very active in their collaboration with us, involving local communities, making things happen. So thanks go to Chernivtsi, Lviv, Poltava, Mykolaiv, Zaporizhzhia and Kyiv Oblast. This program has been possible thanks to joint efforts, again, from the EU, Finland, Poland, Germany, Estonia. I'd like to particularly thank Vera Rybak from the EU delegation to Ukraine for her huge contribution. Without your support, dear Vera, many things won't happen. I'd like to thank all the diplomatic representations of the partner states. And dear colleagues, I'd like to welcome you again at this final events of the program. I cordially invite you to continue discussions of the results and prospects for the future later on. Thank you so much. I think you were able to recall the events of the recent past. Thanks for the video that helped us with it. We were able to delve into the project, and a lot has been done. Many things to be proud of: online courses, meetings, online, offline, development of standards, assistance to vet schools to enable the functioning in new circumstances. I strongly hope this is something that will remain after the program, and it will be developed further. As Dmitro mentioned, many things will be further developed. There is a nice word of sustainability in English. This is what we'd like to achieve across all the projects supported by donors or partners, not just this one. We want these results to remain in the country, and we are going to talk about that. Irina Shumik has been mentioned across the board, and I think this is the right time to invite her to the podium to have more on the current status with vet education, what are the challenges, what are the trends, and how vet is or has to be able to match. So let me introduce a group of panelists now. Please welcome Minna Hakkarainen, Counselor on Education at the Embassy of Finland. Irina Shumik, Head of Vet Directorate at the Ministry of Education. Yuri Balanyuk, Head of the NQA. Lilia Grabowska, Head of the Vet and International Cooperation at the National Employment Service. And Paulo Hadzei, EU4Skills expert and Deputy Minister of Education in 2015 through 2019. I think, Pavlo, this is a bit about sustainability, given the previous efforts in this direction, and I think that we can start. Again, we're going to have a discussion, and if you have questions for the panelists, you can write them down, and these will be collected and delivered to us later on. Maybe you are having some thoughts you'd like to share. Meanwhile, we are to speak about what is exactly happening with education, how we can attract new capable people to the labor market in Ukraine, to retain them, to make sure they participate in the recovery of Ukraine. You know, with my experience of moderation at multiple events, also around educational social matters, this is still the first time for me to moderate the topic of vocational education and training, and I can't wait to hear more about the context of it, to get the knack of it, to understand how important that is, because whenever you come abroad, say to Germany, the key banners you might see, they're immediately about vocational education and training, career choice, and some really practical blue-collar jobs that are widely advertised. You can go on Autobahn to see lots of such ads around. And this tells how much in demand these blue-collar professions are. It says about the extent of attention in the country, because definitely they understand how important it is for economic development. And I'm really hopeful that we will see something like this in Ukraine. So let us have more on that. Again, please jot down your questions or comments, and these will be collected and sent to the podium direct. And we go on. The first question is to Lilia. When we talk about education, general and vocational education and training, specifically it's about our understanding what is happening on the labor market, what is happening, what are the trends, what has changed since the start of the war, what about IDPs and so on. So, what's the situation on the labor market? What occupations are in greatest demand, and how EU4Skills has been instrumental in helping you to define these needs?
Dear friends, thank you for invitation to this final event of the EU4Skills project. You're quite right, the State Employment Service is a key player when it comes to the regional labor markets and national labor market. And of course, we carry out studies of the labor markets. The project on the studies of the labor market in Ukraine had started back in 2020 when we had divided the overall Ukraine into 10 regions and studied the labor market in the construction sector, keeping in mind the potential need of construction professions for the recovery of Ukraine. We got understanding what are the mostly needed professions for the employers. And as Roman correctly said, we have many tools at the central level which allow us to improve vocational training for the mostly demanded professions. As for the those who seek for employment, I should say that we have such a category as IDPs who require retraining. We have too many unemployed people who are registered in the employment service who have higher education, and now they require retraining into vocational professions, and the biggest need is in drivers, in tractor drivers, agriculture, farms, and enterprises. They require such professions. Also, welders very much required in the labor market, and this is a continuous demand in our employment sector. Then there is a big demand in the logistics system for employees. They require drivers for logistics inside Ukraine, and all those professions, they require attention at the national level and from the state, and we have to do everything possible to upgrade and to retrain our IDPs, and we understand that these vocational professions, they are very popular and very much demanded. Thank you for this introduction into what are those professions which are mostly needed. These are not only professions which are demanded today. We later will discuss what will be needed tomorrow. So, could you please tell us what is your vision? What might be the need of professions for tomorrow? What is peculiarity, special characteristic for the vocational training in Ukraine, in any country, I think, in Europe, is that we are very courageous in terms of experiments. We are not afraid to test something new, to try something new. During the last 4 years, I had a chance to observe how the system had been transforming, how the approach of people in this system were changing. At the beginning, the vocational training sector was not very prepared for changes, but we are a team of courageous people, and we wanted to not just train young people in vocational training, but we also need to provide assistance to adults in any age who require retrainings. Maybe some professions, they simply go away. For example, postman, the profession of a postman. This profession is almost dying now. It is going into the past. There will be robots who will deliver mails, and they are doing now this in Estonia, for example. This means that we have to develop a new system of vocational standards at the national level, and this means that the system becomes closer to the labor market. This is the most important for us. We want to make this system as close to life, as close to the requirements of labor market as possible, not to experience any redundancy. For example, last year, for example, we had approved the standard for sappers, the training standard for sappers, while today we realize that there is new demining equipment available, and this year we have to review this training standards for sappers based on the novelties in this area. And we have to ensure this flexibility at the national level and at the regional levels. Of course, nothing is perfect, and nevertheless, we are able to see positive changes in the whole system as of now. Now my question to Mina.
Якщо вам потрібен переклад, то, будь ласка, використовуйте.
Please use your headphones.
And what experience from Finland you can propose to use in Ukraine? Because we know the Finn educational system is one of the best in the world, in Europe for sure. So in IIT education, what do you propose to use, or maybe some approaches that can be used in our country? Please, Vina.
Добрый день всем. I'm very happy to be able to tell you a little bit about our approach, but I think that actually this question should be asked from Irina, who recently visited Finland. So it would be very interesting to learn how she feels like what we could sort of provide for Ukraine. But I would say Irina already talked about changes, and earlier we heard, for instance, Daniel Boucher from GIZ to talk about flexibility as key. And I think that this is the approach. This is not, I would say, Finnish approach. This is approach that we all should understand, whether we are in Finland, whether we are in Ukraine or Germany. But we have to understand that we cannot see the future. When I arrived to Kyiv in February 2020, I could not have imagined what COVID meant for Ukraine, Finland, and the world. then we didn't see the war coming. I mean, we were talking about the war, but we didn't really believe that Russia would be as crazy as it has proved to be. So I think that because we cannot see the future, we have to prepare for different scenarios for the future. So we have to have a system which can react quickly. And the way that I think that what we can learn perhaps for what we have applied is that we have to serve both individuals and the society, which means that flexibility has different forms and different reasons. We have to be able to serve learners with special education needs. We also have to serve those with disabilities, and we know that there is a growing number of learners with disabilities coming in Ukraine. This means that we have to have a system which understands the importance of modularity, which understands individual learning plans. So flexibility is a key to everything, I think. So in Finland, it means, for instance, that once a year you can apply, the young people usually apply to the VET education, but actually you can also join around the year. So it's not just once a year a possibility. You may not be able to apply for any reason then, or you may not understand that this could be your life path. So learners can apply also around the year. And the last thing that I would like to say is that VET in Finland provides education not just for the young generation, but also in great deal for adult learners. And I think that this is also how to develop a system which can serve both adult learners and young people at the same time in a cost-effective, quality manner. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will ask further questions later on. Yes, thank you. Гнучкість, та? Ми говоримо про гнучкість.
Okay, we are discussing flexibility now, and the ability of this system to be resilient to all the changes in life. In the context of flexibility, I have a question to Yuri. Flexibility and standards, how these two things coordinate between each other, and what have you learned from the EU4Skills, or whether you decided to take maybe new approaches to be more flexible, etc. Good afternoon. I would like to say that the result of this project, these are 29 qualification centers and 1,034 qualifications which are assigned to be learned in these centers, 270 professional standards and 178 applications for new professional standards and 59 applications for review of the old professional standards. This is about flexibility and adaptivity to the new challenges of our time. 2 weeks ago, I had a chance to visit the the conference of national coordinators in VT specialties in Brussels, and at that conference, I reminded that in May there were 120 air raids, air attacks on Kyiv, and missiles, which are high-tech products requiring very high skills, were used. And this is also to repel on that attacks. We also needed highly qualified personnel, and this was the National Guard's request for professional training, which allowed us to train people in military professions. And by the way, this is also about flexibility. Then, thinking about the future post-war recovery, we realize that we will need a lot of professions, different professions, and we have to start today. And that's why on July 11th we launch a new course for the developers of vocational standards. Because we understand that without quality requirements, quality standards for the vocational training for VET, we won't be able to build up efficient VET system. We're speaking about working professions. We have to speak simultaneously about the depth of these professions. Mr. Zaharodny mentioned that he is a novice here. No, what he is not right, because working in the digital Ministry of Digitalization, they developed this digital component for all the professions. Then speaking that we are striving to become members of the European Union, we recognize that we have to comply with all the professional standards. That is, we will need to comply with the energy-saving technologies, for example, energy-saving windows, houses, etc. To be able to comply with that, we need to have highly qualified constructors and labor force. As for the speed with which people are getting ready for the labor market, the qualification centers should be able to respond quickly to the changing labor market, to satisfy the requirements from people who feel that they have to tailor their skills up to the new needs of labor market. Also, professional standards, they are shaped by the market. We have to forecast what is needed and to work systemically.
Yeah, thank you. This is important, but again, it begs the question, what occupations are we exactly talking about? Are you going to disclose it? Because, yeah, we cannot ride horses anymore. Okay, I'll put it like this. We don't understand that the war has put extreme challenges for us, and conventional component in this war, according to my personal estimate, it's 50-55%. The remainder is about information security of the Ukrainian nation. For example, the National Service for Special Communication and Information Protection. They've designed already 6 standards to denote ways to secure networks, information protection, so on. And they're working on 14 more occupational standards, which will pose requirements for relevant curricula and related education. So when they speak about system administrator, it's completely different thing versus what we had 10 years ago. 20 years ago, communication officers in the army would bring, those wired telephones and so on. and it was really about truckloads of it. Now they have electronic equipment and requirements completely different. Next, I do support the colleague from the Ministry for Education when she spoke about electric gas welders. We did accredit a lot of such qualification centers, and we did it for lots of sectors currently in the front line near that. Kharkiv, Zaporizhzhia Oblast, and so on. So this is important. When people are doing something there, when they're opening qualification centers there, it means they believe in something to happen in Ukraine, they believe in the future of it, and this is an open source information, you can find it. We're, like a fishbowl, we're completely transparent, you can go to our electronic resources to find every bit of information, and everyone sees it, and likes it, and shares it. Welcome. Okay, good to hear. And speaking of the frontline areas and territories that nevertheless are heavily engaged, I do remember our project with Nakurs, and we had more than 200 people from across Ukraine join online. We had people also from Kherson. It was the time when they were sitting in occupation, yet they managed somehow to connect on a weekly basis. People did want to learn, and they strongly believed that Kherson would be liberated. It really inspired lots of people. I do remember that lady, Natalia, she had problems with her connectivity, but she was there. I'd like to send her heartfelt greetings if she hears us. And yeah, Yuri, thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us. Now, about achievements. It's interesting to hear about contexts and challenges, but let us not forget about achievements. Nearly 4 years of EU4Skills. Do you know some achievements you'd like to share throughout the time? Something that really promoted change or introduced change or, change something for the better. Let us start with Irina and go one by one. Quite a challenge to mention just a couple of them because, I do remember that 4 years ago it was really a scary thing to take upon yourself the responsibility for this whole VET reform. The tasks of the project were completely in tune with our plans that we are really planned in terms of reform together with the European Educational Fund. And when we were planning, we thought that it might be manageable. Then we understood that no, it's bloody scary and it is a challenge. But then, we are used to do something even in spite of being scared, and that way it all started. What I would deem really a big birthday present for me is the fact that the image, the face of the VET system did change. We are no longer afraid of things related to VET. I do remember that for first videos, we were at pains to find someone to participate, a student who would go and engage. And then we had those videos based on our early results, and we saw children increasingly being interested in. And then we had masters of training and teachers join. Then some VET schools looking at international experience from Finland, from Estonia. People increasingly have started understanding that things can be possible if you do something. And that contributed to changing the whole image of the system. So this is probably one of the best achievements. Another thing worth mentioning is the change of approaches. When it is about a big system, when you start changes, you would always hear someone telling that, why changing? Things are, in good working order. Why would you improve? But then probably all of us, or many of us, have this inner child who wants changes. And this is a part of a researcher in me. In science, you always want some changes. And, well, third consideration, I like how the project contributed to us becoming a team of like-minded people. I do think that Petro and my other colleagues, they do remember when we selected pilot regions, we had many other regions who would not be included. They would feel disgruntled, and I remember myself telling that, can we not, find more regions to work with, because we could fiddle with figures, numbers to make more. And Alexei was right when he said that in spite of COVID, in spite of the war, we've gradually expanded and we covered many more territories, and that created a bigger team. And I think this is probably the biggest achievement for me. I'm not going to tell about number of events or participants, but this is about systemic changes. Yeah, thank you. Dear Mina?
The three successes of EU4Skills project.
I think there are much more successes than 3 ones, but I have now, of course, deliberately chosen the successes from that have been contributed by our Finnish experts. So apologize for my Polish and German and Estonian colleagues. But I would like to say that that it is important to always remember the role of teachers and school managers when we implement any reform or everyday education. So I think that teacher training and school management training that was provided by the project within the framework of the project has been very important. And because they really play a key role as change agents in this reform. They make the everyday of quality education. So to start with the project-defined competencies that teachers and school managers need to have in order to enhance the VET reform. So these competencies include, for example, coaching, collaboration with work life and employees and industries, change management skills, and screening of VET. I would like to say a few words about this screening once I have a possibility. I think screening VET is highly important. So we, I think, should ask how vocational education and training can actually contribute to sustainable development. By sharing and applying up-to-date knowledge and practices with students who will be the future specialists in their fields. So, as the colleague already mentioned, I mean, there are lots and lots of questions that have to do with screening and VET. For instance, what materials can be used when new houses are being built or old ones are repaired? Or what are the carbon footprint of different materials and why does it matter? Or what alternative sources of electricity are available today that are more environment friendly? Or, for instance, how to reduce chemical load in beauty salons. So there is lots and lots of questions that has to do with the current and future society and Ukraine, that actually vocational education and training and the teachers can make a change if they fully understand how this matters. So the second one I would like to say is standard and curricular development that has been done. We all understand that in order to have quality education, we have to have up-to-date standards and also curriculum. If we do not, it is very difficult to respond to the needs of the society and the changing needs of the society. So labor market needs are very relevant, as it has been also pointed out earlier. So within this framework, Finnish experts supported development of 20 educational standards and 20 curricula. We understand that 20 is very little in numbers, but it was done in a way that aimed at sort of teaching the Ukrainians how this process could be done better, so that it takes into account the needs of the society, needs of the work life, etc., etc. So I would say that it is not so much about the number, but it is about joint learning process and sort of increasing the capacity of Ukrainian actors in the field to do this independently in the future. So it's about capacity building very much. In addition, development for competence profiles were done, taking into consideration the ongoing war and post-war rebuilding. So I give you examples. For instance, repair and construction of buildings and premises and construction of small buildings. This was one of them. Repair and construction of damaged utilities and some other infrastructure. Waste disposal and rehabilitation of the environment. Highly, highly important topic today. We understand that this unfortunate war has done so much damage to Ukraine's great nature. Also, providing social partners and accompanying support to persons who received physical or moral psychological traumas and defects during the war. This is also something that in any level of education we have to take into consideration. And the last one that I would like to point out is 20 online short courses. These were developed after the war had started. So it was understood that something has to be done, but something that can be accessed easily wherever they are, the learners, whether they are in Ukraine, whether they are in other countries. And I would like to say that the figures of numbers of learners who registered shows that this kind of activity was also needed. So by the end of March, there was already more than 19,000 registrations to these courses and more than 12,500 certificates issued from these. So I think that these are very concrete activities that have been done. You can call them achievements as well. I think the achievement is that we managed to continue supporting this reform despite the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Дякую. Так, давайте
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. A big round of applause. This is our energizer. Yuri, what would you say about the key achievements of the project? You know that the NQA can hardly remember its existence without this EU4Skills project, because we came to exist in 2019. In November we became a legal entity, then in short time we had war come on us, so we survived through that crash test in our green period of existence. Thanks to our communication and cooperation with the EU4Skills, we prospered because we shared the understanding of the importance of qualifications. Particularly based on EU experience, they place big value on that, and if you want to live and survive and develop in the EU, we are bound to design a system that would be adapted to EU requirements. We need to be able to speak common language, particularly in terms of the qualification systems that we have. So one of the first steps for us was to gain as much experience as possible on that, and we had a couple of visits to EU member states. We did visit some specific qualification centers. We had communication with the ministries of education, training centers, and so on. I probably can give you more information during a coffee break, but what was important that we tried to absorb all the best practices we were able to tap into across the EU. And we, furthermore, were able to implement all the legal regulations that regulate NQA operations. We did everything we could, and this was done thanks to our collaboration with EU4Skills project, and we are thankful to it for this. The second point concerns liberalizing certain processes, and hats off to the Ukrainian parliament for that. They looked into prospects of human capital development, and one of co-authors of the legislation on human capital development, Yulia Koval, is here. Thanks for that as well. So this law ushered in proper development of qualification standards in the country. It is important because neither the chair of NQA or a deputy minister or someone like that cannot identify requirements to, say, turner or, I don't know, metal worker. The government has just to oversee the proper adherence to procedure, to pro forma requirements, but the meat to the bones is to be added by the market. And vet schools now are applying en masse to NQIA, requesting qualifications to different type of education, like informal type of education. And we see lots of qualification centers are being increasingly established at vet schools, also near the front line. Third, when the NQA was established, the government did change the legislation to bring into compliance the level of our qualifications within the NQF in line with European qualification framework that provided for better understanding. It's about common language, like you measure, certain goods in, for example, kilos or tons. Much in the same vein, we need to have common terms when deciding on someone's qualifications, and we made a huge progress when we did compare our NQF with the EQF. The next stage within this third point, I don't know that I'm still within my time, so bear with me, please. Now we've created NCP, which is a National Coordination Center for collaboration with EKF, and tomorrow we are having a EC representative. We are going to discuss the exact schedule when we are going to compare and finalize the comparison of our NQF with the EQF. This will open new doors for us. And it is important to say that even the work group on comparison of NQF had our big friend Roman Gorovey among its members. And the report was signed by the European Commission and the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. And this is the third achievement to be proud of in the scope of our cooperation. So I do hope that the Skills for Recovery project will be nonetheless important and even more relevant given the challenge that the current time is showing to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Lilia? 3 minutes. This project contributed the most into our teachers in the vocational training institutions. Investing in the human capital, you will be able to recover the whole country. During the last 3 years, our teachers had the possibility to to raise their professional level, to master new skills and compete and gain new competencies at the level of the employment state service. I can say that we managed to have synergy in the in understanding the necessary changes for labor markets, and in result of that we suggested amendments to legislation. That suggested amendments were developed together with the employers, and the vocational training centers are offered more training for IDPs, and IDPs had become an important component in this project. Qualification centers are very important key point. It is important not just to offer professional skills, but to offer them to those who most really need them. These are IDPs, and IDPs quite often need to get the certificate about proper professional training, and in this aspect our project proved to be very useful. Thank you. Pavlo, as far as I understand, you contributed to the project when you worked in the ministry. Yes, we had been preparing the project while it was implemented by other people. This is a final event, but each Ukrainian recalls the famous poem by Lina Kostenko that each final actually means a kickoff. And at the preparation stage in the ministry, we had clear understanding that vocational training is different from secondary school education, because you work for to satisfy the specific demand of specific employers, and you understand that each profession is needed in specific quantities of employees. And the third important aspect is education for adults, not just for young people. And adults, they require short-term training and very specific maybe training. And at the very beginning, looking at the budget of 54 million, we were comparing that 54 million given to Ukraine against 30 million given to much smaller Georgia. We encourage to rethink this figure, and now looking at the results, we understand that this was the right approach. I will try to speak more briefly than 12 minutes. Yes, we have employers, but looking at our vocational training students, we clearly see that 2/3 of them are young people who are almost teenagers, while only 1/3 these are adults. And of course, those young people, they enjoy their right of choosing their profession. They actually implement their constitutional right to choose. But who has to coordinate that this constitutional right is used for the benefits of society? And we have to offer training which is able to produce top professionals. And this was just the context to say maybe the most important thing. In the ministry of previous term was in our discussions with Lilia Grinevich, we we're discussing hard components and soft components, and soft components are very useful, but teaching hard components is the basics, but gaining new skills, soft skills, this always gives a possibility for a person to change the area, to quit current employment, and while hard component of education, there is our positive practices, our centers of excellence. They will appear in future. As of now, we do not see them, but we still hope that after the war, these centers eventually will appear. And now, closer to the answer to your question. Last week in Lviv, we had a huge vocational training festival in Lviv, and the Minister Lisavy attended the festival, and during our discussions at the festival, the minister mentioned that as of today, the top priority for the country is a security area and everything related to the military field, and the top priority number 2 is development of human capital and actually development of human skills, including vocational skills. And also I agree very much with the minister when he says that Ukraine has eventually gained its high subjectivity in the international dimension. What we had done in the project, at the beginning we were thinking about regional councils or boards of qualifications, and here we had to overcome the past Soviet approach, and the idea that you have just to teach students and then allow them to get a proper certificate. But gradually we came to understanding that the quality of gained new skills is important, and the competences have to be entered into the vocational training system. Another big thing is to have a very good leader for the vocational training system. Irina has been working in this system with the 4 ministers of education. I think this is a good sustainability. And I think that many people are now interested in vocational training, and as members of parliament we should allow people to do that, and we clearly observe the growing interest to the vocational training. And distance learning, then consultancies to the vocational training, and these are the most important things. Today, despite this, despite the fact that this is final event, actually our colleagues have not finished their work in Ukraine, and this is not the full stop. This is just a semicolon, so to say. Is it an air raid alert signal? Vera, perhaps you will describe the perspectives. I would like to respond to what Pavlo Kuzmovich has said. We worked much on the design of the project, and I recollect the insistence of ministry as to proper structure of the project. And today, I should say, one of the biggest achievements of the project is strengthening of institutional capacity. The team that we have today, obviously, is very mighty, very strong Ukrainian team, which was produced in result of this project. Now coming back to the infrastructure component. Let us not forget that 21 million, which then backed up with 20 million additionally from Germany, which will arrive later, and that is wise decision because because the war would not allow us to use them properly, and also the European Bank on Reconstruction and Development also had joined this program, which is supported by other donors like Germany, Finland, Poland, and Estonia. That's why European Investment Bank has joined. That is, we have good resources for the infrastructure component, but without people, no infrastructure would become operational and useful. That's why our human capital is the basis. Recently, Vice President of the European Commission correctly said that human capital is blood for democracy and is blood for the country. let us check whether we have air raid alarm in Kyiv. Actually, we are finishing. What about the future? In one word, the future of VT in one word, because we have to go into the shelter. For me, VT is development of talents, and I am sure we will see that in one word about the future.
But one word, we don't have time because we have like the alarm.
Hope for people and society.
Thank you so much. Please.
Навички – це валюта майбутнього.
Skills are the currency of the future.
Так, пане Юрій, ви прямо сказали, я скажу профтехосвіти, насправді це майбутнє.
VT means the future. VT, which will compete successfully with higher education. Let us applaud and I hope it was useful and you liked it. Now we have to go to the shelter because there is there is no air raid alert, fortunately. Only in the Kyiv region received the air raid alarm signal. I would like to thank you for this discussion. I think it was interesting. I think it was useful. And during our coffee break, we will be able to discuss more. I would like to make an announcement. We will have our lunch break from 12 till 1 p.m. At 2 p.m. Two sessions in parallel will start at session number 1 will be held in this room. And the topic is how has the vocational education and training system changed at the regional level. Pablo Habzey is a moderator. This second session, cooperation between the VAT system and the labor market, with Alexei Alexiuk, will be at level M2. You should take a lift, an elevator, to reach the floor M2. During the lunch, please think which session is interesting for you. If you are several people from the same center, you may split your team into two halves. Take your earphones, leave your earphones on the tables during lunch. At 2:10 p.m. at 2:10 we will start another two sessions. Session number 3 will be held in this room. This will be digitalization and its role in development of VAT. And session number 4, ensuring the quality of training in the VAT system, moderated by Natalia Samoilenko, which will be on the second floor. Everything is actually indicated in your agendas. And after all those sessions, at the end of the day, we will celebrate the final event with the sweet cake. And now, bon appetit. We are having lunch break till 1 p.m. Thank you for attention.